time for the round table.
We don't have a lot of young people in positions of authority. We think about when it comes to the younger generation and the older generation.
Yeah, boss.
It's like there's this tug of war between the older generation and the new generation. That's really what this is about. Is this tension is like, look, we think it's our time to start taking more leadership positions and to be more deliberate in the decision making and to map our future where we think we're going to. If you look at some of the animal kingdom, right? Look at lions, for example. Look at the pride of lions, right? They farm out, they hunt, right? And those who are taking care of the kids, they all come to eat. Like there's unity in what they're doing. Mm-hmm. If that is a premise, then something is really askew. Yeah. Something is not right, because your survival as well, being older, is also directly tied in to the younger one taking you further than you are even going to be yourself.
You're talking about it, you look at the animal kingdom, you look at us and the way we're in this tug of war. So how do we get to a position that we can actually work together? How can the older generation and the younger generation start to work together? Because I think there are a lot of problems for me in terms of perception.
Let me ask you one question, right? To answer that question, like, your dad is in the 60s, right? Right. He's your dad. He loves you. He's your dad. If today, your dad was having lunch, he had chicken and chips, and you walked by and you took a fry, what is he going to say? No, just seriously, what is your dad going to say? Is he going to be mad that you had some of his food? Or he might be simple like, Adela, you know what, just go get your own or whatever. But he's not going to be upset.
Yes.
Right? He's not, because he's still love, you're still his child. Mm-hmm. So what exactly, look, in Nigeria, there's things don't function here the way things function anywhere else. And the way to do it, you're talking about exactly what Fela is doing. We have to be loud, we have to be obnoxious, we have to be forcefully uncooperative, right? Because that's the only way we're gonna be like, pause.
No, it's not just the language that they kind of like tend to hear. And the point is, when you hear most of the guys in the older generation, they're saying things like to us, like, nobody's gonna give you, you guys gonna have to take it. So they're the ones saying, we're competing with you guys. Yeah. They're the ones saying, we're going to continue until you guys take it by force. And the question is, that's not the way it should have been. Yeah. What should have happened was you should have prepped us and then told us that we were ready, and we should have been the ones who was like, are you sure we're ready? I say, yeah, I believe in you. Gilman, come on, go for it. I mean, I'm not just talking whether politics there, but I'm talking business. How many businesses are still being run by 70-year-old people? Yeah. How many businesses? And times change. And companies are not changing with the times. Governments are not innovating, because the innovation is the wisdom of the youth. Yeah. Conservative is the wisdom of the older. That was how things used to be.
There's still a lot of us who aren't thinking on a wider scope. Yeah. So we're thinking, I want to make money. I want to be the one in charge. I want to be the one who's famous. You're not thinking, how can I create opportunities for us generally so that, we all can benefit and we all can help each other to sustain the country, as opposed to just me being about myself.
Yeah. And I usually say that what you just said now, I said, it's a me generation that has created this great challenge. The generation that brought us independence was a we generation. And you know what? We also cannot afford to be a me generation. We can't be a me generation. We got to go back to the generation that brought us greatness. Yeah. And we've got to be the we generation, which means, guys, we also have to learn how to then, be more inclusive of the older generation, and be more respectful, so that we're less threatening.
I'm so with you. You're right. Like, there's nothing you're saying that's wrong, but there's just one thing. It's almost like when you're trying to connect something, just that one last missing piece, right? Yes, we should be the we generation. Yes, we should do this. What happens when, through all that goodwill, through all that well thought out everything, some person saying like, I would not let this happen because money, relevance. Like, once that is in the way, all these things just seems like we just won't connect. It will always
Absolutely,
be.
you're right.
You're always
there.
going to be
You're
a
right.
miss.
You're right.
It's because it's not. It becomes incomplete. This is my personal opinion here, how I feel about things. Nigeria is probably the worst place for you to have money in large sums. You can only do two things with money here, right? You buy a big house or you buy a big car. After that, it's pretty much it. If a very wealthy person is sick at 4:30 p.m. living in Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Lekki, you will die. You will die. You will not get to where you need to get to anytime because it's gridlock. You know, you can't even get to your helicopter. Right? You can't even get there. So what's the point? Like Fela is saying, like, look, Alexander Graham Bell, what did he create? The telephone? Now we have phones in our pockets, right? And whoever made first camera, right? Now we got phones in that. We got cameras in that, right? Now we can send. There's a point in time in Nigerian history where you had to go send a fax, right? You had to go, you know.
Everybody remember Naito?
Yeah. Now you can scan on your phone. You can do everything. And that invention built upon where Graham Bell started from years ago. Everything is about building upon the successes of those that came before you. That is life. Life is constantly evolving. And when these people, older generation, whatever the case is, I don't know what a 70-some-year-old man is worried about trying to accumulate money in mass sums. That should not be.
Or still try to run
And it's contrary to anything that has to do with anything that's rationally sane. Like it doesn't make any sense here.
Because my worry with our generation generally is that we still, because of what we've seen before us, have the same drive and desire for money and power as opposed to actually impacting change. How do we change the values that are being changed, that are being handed down when the older generation might not really be passing over those correct values to us? We're not seeing the right things being done in and around us.
Well, okay, so I'll tell you what, because this is practically in my space now. And, you know, so when I talk about this relay race, right, and I talk about how it's important that when you run, you've got to be able to hand over the baton. And one of the things I tell people is that what you really hand over must be three things. Number one, you must be able to hand over the right values to your children so that they have the capacity to succeed wherever they go. Number two, you must hand over the right environment to your kids so that they are not threatened by the values that you have positioned in them. So for instance, if you teach your children how to be truthful, but you did not worry about the nation that they were going to be truthful in, and the norm in that nation is that if you're truthful, you're not playing a ball and they're going to come after you. Then literally what I've done is I've just endangered my child with the right values in the wrong society, right? So it's important that I not only put the right values into my child, I've got to be able to make sure that there's a right society for my child to be able to use those right values. But the third thing that you also have to put in that pattern is the right name. Is to make sure that the name and the reputation that you have built opens doors of opportunity to your children to be able to use those good values or those right values in the right environment. You see what I'm saying? But this is where it now tells what happens, like you just said, when it's the wrong things that people are teaching. A few weeks ago, I had been in some of you might know this junction on Legally Ayoride and Ajose Adeogu. And I was on Ajose Adeogu, just a couple of years ago actually, and it was on a Sunday, and the lights were red, and I was on legally trying to turn into Ajose. Cut the long story short, there was this lady who was driving behind me in her, big Lexus Jeep, and she was horning because I just refused to go past the red light. There was no other car there, but I was waiting for the right. And she was horning and telling me to get out. Finally, when we got on, I just said, someone come to drive right beside me and winds down, and you could see she was mad, and she was saying, she didn't know whether I was Yoruba, Igbo, or and while she was trying to wind down to tell me, she must have, in her anger, wound down the backlash. So I saw these two beautiful kids, right? One of them must have been like 5 years old, another one 8 years old, and they were looking at this madman who was stopping at a street light that was red. And what I was saying was, that woman didn't realize that those kids just went through their first driving lesson. that if you ever stopped at the red light, you must be because you're crazy. Now, what do you do when that is the kind of values that is passing to the next generation? And for me, I think sometimes we're going to have to decide that, you know what, we're going to raise our own fresh values. And we're going to teach our own kids. One principal called me one day, said to me, "Oh, Fela, you can't believe what just happened. My dad just came in angry and saying, what are you guys teaching my child?" And he said, well, so what had happened? Well, they were running late and the child was saying, no, I don't want to be late. I don't want to be late because I value time and make the best use of it. And the father was saying, don't worry, nothing will happen. And then he went on the pedestrian lane and he said, no, Daddy, I don't want to be late, but we should not go on the pedestrian lane because we have to do the right thing at all times, regardless of it. And so now you see it's the younger children, our next generation, that is training the generation ahead. It should have been the other way around. But somehow life has a way of fixing things.
So I met this man many years ago, Sumi Smart Cole. He's a photographer.
The great.
Sumi Smart Cole is a photographer. And he was telling me about, when he was young, when he was much younger, he had a barbershop in Yaba. And like he's a photographer, he's a famous person. He just wanted a barbershop. Just as a way for him just to like hang out and do something, and while he's doing it, just has a barbershop. And how people used to come, Yaba was such a safe place. Everything was cool. And back then, backpackers from America would come and they'll rent the halls, the rooms in Unilag, right, as their dormitory where they'll like backpacking through Nigeria. And he used to cut their hair and then shoot them out to eat and all that kind of stuff. I say this to say this. What Fela just said, right? So if Nigeria was once a place whereby these things were happening, right? So these things were normal in Nigeria. So this society learned bad behavior, which means you can unlearn it, right? Because if there was a time when some smart code was just hanging out in Yaba, everything was cool, just kicking the back, cutting people's hair. Oh, you want a place to stay? Go to Unilag, just rent a room. And people from all across the world coming there, it means our society was welcoming. We had systems, things were working.
We were the Wakanda.
You know what I mean? So things were here that were working. And so at some point, something happened that fractured that.
Many times we have to define the behavior we want and then aspire to get to it. So many times what we're doing right now is only describing the behavior we have, not defining the behavior we want. And what real change does in terms of social change is you've got to get to some sort and say, like, a lot of people say it's altruistic, but you're going to say, okay, hold on, guys. Can we go into the future and describe the new Nigeria? And say that new Nigeria is what we want to become now. And it's not going to be easy, but we're going to get to it.
And I think one of the things that I worry about also is I think we take a lot of things that we do wrong and we label them as culture when they're not. Because you get to see where a lot of people say, but this is Nigeria. I'm like, no, it's not. This is not an excuse for doing things in an improper way. One of the things that's hit me a lot lately in the last couple of weeks is we've been working in the family to do a book on my granddad's photography. So looking at all the photos he took and how beautiful Nigeria was, and it wasn't that long ago. My parents showed me pictures how they used to go to Ikoyi Park, which is now here, and how beautiful it was. Marina, the water looking incredibly blue. And we've let go of these things, and we highlight them as, but this is Nigeria, like this is our culture. No, it's not our culture. We let things go. Like you said. How can we get to a position where the values we're leaving? Because I think one of the problems I think we have from a youth perspective is that we don't have mentors. So looking at business, all these kind of things, a lot of the people above sadly acquired their wealth in ways that cannot teach me how to acquire wealth. It came from corruption. Oh, someone just gave you this contract because they happen to be in this position. How do you teach somebody how to actually start to run a business? How do you teach someone how to actually build? What I love is that we're creating with you now a party with values. My big issue is we've had no parties with values. At least in America, Democrats stand for this, Republicans stand for this. What side are you on? But people are jumping parties because there's no set values. What are the value systems? Are we ingraining value systems in people as we're building them up and we're growing them up? So how do we start to create those things as a youth people? Because clearly it's in our hands.
We're really shaking this table.
It's like,
Shaking the table. We have to shake the establishment.
right. I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm having 1,001 thoughts at this at the same time. And I'm just trying to like slow them down so I can be coherent in what I'm going to say. It's even with your grandfather's pictures, right? And you could basically look through his pictures and be like, where is this place, right? So if you skip a generation ahead of you, and if that Nigeria that person is going to be at is not with the principle Fela just described as, what we want, we should start, building that now. Where your grandfather's picture was taken will be like another place that never, there's some kind of fantasy land, right? Like, what are you talking about? This never existed. And the main thing is like, everything, why is the water not blue anymore? Why is there pure water bags in every single thing? How come the roads that used to work, why are they not? It's because every generation subsequently that came into power, whether it was the military or civil administrators or whatever the case is, everybody came in and be like, yo, this is our time. We have to take everything we can right now. And they weren't building for anything. It's like, I'm here. Like, I have a son now. He's 2 years old. And I said, look, I don't like it when he kind of like, tries to run after food or whatever the case is. It's yours. You don't have to rush after it. Just take what you can eat, and once you're done, if you want more, it'll still be there. Because if he thinks like it's gonna disappear, right? You think it's gonna disappear.
Like
so then the greed is like, I'm like, no, this is it. So take this. You sit down, you eat, and once you're done, if you do want more, if you don't want more, leave it alone. And it's like, and that's the thing here, right? The reason why a lot of systems are cracked, a lot of systems are inefficient because people were just doing them as short gaps. I remember when Lekki Admiralty was gorgeous. I remember it. I remember when they were like, oh, there's like 6 houses and they were still laying the thing, whatever the case is. Now it's whatever the case is. I remember all these things. And it's no one is thinking about anything else other than right now. And that's the thing. Everybody's about the immediacy of now. Take everything I can take, and whatever happens, keep it moving.
And it feeds into such as all the small things. I mean, you look at like buildings in Nigeria. No one ever builds parking space because they want their building to be as big as it can be. They're supposed to think about efficiency. And I think that it's that thought of we're such an image-based culture. Looking like you have what you don't. And I think about it specifically, what was in the entertainment industry. You look at it and, what you earn does not compare to what you look like you earn, because everyone is we're so stuck up on I must look like I have, as opposed to why not? Like I've always had this thought, and it's just been, especially looking in terms of what I have and what I don't have. Being born into the family that I was born to, I did nothing to earn it. We look as Christians, we did nothing to earn the love of God. We did nothing to earn what we have. So why am I basing myself or my worth on looking like I have? And we need to get to this position of this and instill a sense of humility, I believe, into people where no one is striving after having something just for the sake of having it. And I think we need to get to a position. One of the things that just going back a little with that whole idea that the old generation didn't seem to really earn what it is that they have. They seem to take. And this culture that we have now, because we're in a position where we feel like
I need to touch on something very quickly. Because, just where you are in this, because I have a story to tell that broke my heart. So a couple of days ago, I was in Ibadan to go and activate what we call our Team FD, which is a team that is helping us put things together. And so here I was driving into Ibadan, and I was supposed to be meeting some guys at a particular place. So I'm parked there waiting on this person who's going to come and lead me to where we're going. And then this little girl comes. She's maybe about three years old, right? Very pretty little girl, and so, she's knocking and she's doing that. And, my heart always melts when I just see little children. So I thought, what do I have in the car, And I gave, I had this peanuts, right, in a little pack. And so I asked her, do you want this? She said, yeah. So I wound down, gave it to her, and said, and before I could, I actually wanted to open it for her because I didn't think she would be able to open it. So before I could do that, she just took it. And then she ran, And I saw her go and give it to an elderly man who obviously was her father or her, and the guy just collected it and snatched it from her, put it in his pocket, and directed her to another car. I wanted to calm down and go and fight, but then they'll say presidential aspirants that is fighting. But you know, and I started to cry. And I do cry quite a bit, you know, because there's some things that I don't know what else to do other than what I'm trying to do right now. And I told the guys in my car, this is why we're running for a new Nigeria. This thing that just happened. Because that girl will never get off the street. That is some guy who has placed a ceiling over his life, placing a lower ceiling over that girl's life. He's not even begging anymore. He's gone past begging in his own eyes. He's now taking the next generation. And you know, you have to see this little girl and you can only imagine the possibilities ahead for her. The prettiest thing that you can ever imagine, 3 years old or so. And somebody is putting her in the sun. She will never go to school. That girl, just so that she can get one 500 naira or 200 naira or 300 naira and give it to a guy who is too lazy to get anything done. I mean, but
one thing that truly amazes me, fella, is this, right? I'm sitting on this table right now, and I promise you, it's like, man, I'm like, God, Nigeria is blessed. You know, that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm like, I just met him, smart guy. Yeah. Like, wisdom, like you were talking about before, right? Wisdom is saying, like, okay, if the Super Eagles were open the draft today, right, they shouldn't take me. They really shouldn't, because I'm horrible. Yeah. But they should definitely take JJ Okocha if he was like 22, right? Yeah. That's wisdom. You don't want me, you want that guy. That guy will do everything to give all of us joy. You see what I'm saying? That's wisdom. The older generation must recognize, like, if man, I can't do it, I'm not a thoroughbred anymore, man. Yeah. Like that dude right there, that young lady over there, it's in my interest to go get that skill and that talent to keep driving us forward.
it's only when your neighbors are hungry that your chicken is not safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
You were just gonna finish that off.
Oh, sorry.
Man, he's good. Man.
So I think for me, what I'm learning, and what to me seems to be like the biggest thing, what I've heard today is actually kind of your values. And I think we need to talk about teaching those values to people. So can you kind of like re-emphasize those 10 points for us?
Okay. Are you guys going to repeat?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Okay. I will
Make
a positive impact on everyone I meet and everywhere I go. I will be a solution provider and not a part of the problem to be solved. I will be a role model worthy of emulation. I will be my best in all that I do. Particularly the things I'm naturally good at. I will do the right thing at all times, regardless of who's doing the wrong thing. I will value time and make the best use of it. I will care and show respect to all through my words and my actions. I will consciously build a great legacy, starting now, today, and every day. I will live a life of integrity and honor. And I will make my family, my nation, and my God proud. So help me God.
Love it.